It's 6 o'clock on Wednesday, the 9th of October, 2019. Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to the English edition of Ora News. My name is Oliver, bringing you the only daily update of the local Albanian news translated into English. On Thursday at 10 a.m., the majority called for the convening of the Special Parliamentary Commission on Electoral Reform with the aim of holding a discussion on the progress of work and the conclusions of the roundtable organized by the OSCE on September 5th, with the participation of all factors, including those political ones. Representatives of the majority asked the Secretariat to inform non-parliamentary opposition representatives who, after the burning of their mandates, were reserved under the status of observers. But the Democratic Party and its allies do not accept the invitation and are rejecting it. According to them, they do not recognize the parliamentary body. Ora News contacted senior representatives of the Democratic Party who reiterated the position that the Commission had no legitimacy, stressing that reforms could not be carried out by individuals who were subject to electoral crimes. The same contacted officials said that the opposition has made the platform public for electoral reform and emphasized that only with its acceptance the Democratic Party and its allies would join. The Democratic platform is comprised of 5 conditions, and dominating the platform is the condition that electoral reform be carried out by a special structure, a structure which includes the representatives of the United States and of Europe. Even though, according to the Dutch government, Albania is not ready to open negotiations, there is still uncertainty over whether or not the veto to the decision at the meeting of foreign ministers on October 15th or at the summit of the European leaders on October 18th. 6 days from now, on October 15th, France will hold a discussion on Albania, which, according to experts, may sway the Dutch decision. The Dutch foreign minister, Stef Blok, was invited on Tuesday to the Parliamentary Committee on European Affairs of the Dutch Parliament, where their MPs were asked whether or not to open accession talks with Albania. The minister avoided giving a direct response on the veto against Albania, but unlike the response for North Macedonia, he hinted that Albania is not where it needs to be to launch the opening of negotiations. When asked by the MPs of the 3 major parties in the ruling coalition as to whether the motion approved by 2/3 of Dutch MPs for Albania remains in force, Blok said the motion still hasn't changed. Candidate countries must meet the strict requirements before taking another step in the integration process. The Netherlands is closely following the progress in both countries and is of the opinion that the Council should evaluate each country based on its own merit, said Blok. The Netherlands considers the progress encouraging, but says Albania needs to do more. The Council has set a number of criteria to be met by Albania before the opening of negotiations. The Netherlands welcomes the hard work undertaken by the Albanian government in the last year, but thinks that more needs to be done in the fight against corruption and organized crime. On Tuesday, the Albanian government again addressed itself to the Netherlands, but this time through a letter from a cabinet member, stating that if negotiations were not reached by Albania, it would be a victory for the dark forces here at home. A recent OSCE study shows that 22% of women and girls were victims of physical violence. In response to this phenomenon, the Albanian government is drafting a bill to implement tougher measures for abusers. The Prime Minister blames both the prosecutors and the judges for the situation. We have a bunch of prosecutors and judges who know they can't get past the vetting process. They're playing like it's their last meal, so they're not playing well, and they want to have it all. This rotten process of justice has created a long chain of tragic events, pressure, and violence. Women are violated twice, once by men and then by the justice system, said Prime Minister Edi Rama. Rama regards re-education centers as one of the solutions for violent men. I think it's about time. We have to think about education centers for men who treat women badly. It should not be so simple that they are able to violate women and run away because of this rotten justice system. These men should be held accountable for anything wrong with their families. Therefore, steps must be taken in this direction, said Rama. At the second regional forum, The End of Violence Against Women in the Western Balkans and Turkey, Ambassador Luigi Sareka said that the EU is committed to supporting gender equality. The fight against all forms of violence against women and girls in the public and in the private sphere is a major area of action. Our new initiatives focus on eliminating all forms of violence, said Sareka. As for the Minister of Health, or Gerta Manastirliu, despite the achievements, there is still a lot of work to be done to prevent the violence enacted against women and girls. In the last year alone, 18 women lost their lives as a result of violence from their partners. Well, the Minister of Tourism and Environment, Blendi Closey, has reiterated the demand for the cancellation of Type C environmental permits. In a meeting with stakeholders, Minister Closey stressed that, in addition to environmental pollution, Type C permits have become magnets for abuse, even inside the administrative structure. Closey sought cooperation with law enforcement agencies on all environmental pollutants. Earlier, the same environmental permits sparked clashes between the government and municipalities, which have been demanding the decentralization of these permits. The Ministry of Environment has now proposed to cancel the Type C permit as it causes a burden for more than 5,500 businesses. Alarms have been raised between the interurban transport operators in the city by the Informality Action members. Through a statement to the media, the head of the Interurban Transport Association, Kwiti Mema, said that in their daily work, they are not facing more rules, but just increased fines. The situation has led to Mema giving 20 days in time to Belinda Baluku, otherwise the protests are due to start. There are currently 170 lines operating on interurban transportation in Albania. Albania has dropped 5 positions in the Global Competitiveness Report for 2019. The index released by the World Economic Forum ranks Albania in the 81st position in terms of overall scoring among the 141 economies of the world, giving it merely a score of 57.6%. The Western Balkans region is led by Croatia in 63rd place, Serbia in 72nd, and Montenegro in 73rd. Meanwhile, North Macedonia ranked in the 82nd position and Bosnia and Herzegovina in the 92nd position. The report, which measures the competitiveness of a state based on the productivity of institutions, policies, and sectors, lists in detail Albania's problems. The grade for security and response to organized crime remains one of the lowest in the world, nearly 30 positions from last place. As for the judicial independence, Albania is ranked in the 136th position, and for the efficiency of legal framework in challenging regulations, it is ranked in the 133rd position. Problems are also arising in property rights, in road infrastructure, in the protection of intellectual property, and in the effect that taxes and subsidies have on the country's competitiveness. At the same time, Albania leads the world's 141 economies in terms of inflation, in terms of facilitating the employment of foreigners, in electricity access for the population, but also in the capacity to develop its own information technology field. In the global ranking of 2019, Singapore ranks as the most competitive country in the world, followed by the United States, Hong Kong, the Netherlands, and finally, Switzerland. And finally tonight, Gentian Malindi, accused of being implicated in the trafficking of 137 kilograms of cocaine from Ecuador to Durrës, is now seeking a change in his security measure from jail arrest to obligation to appear at the Serious Crimes Appellate Court. In a request directed to the court, the defense lawyer also requests the head of the Serious Crimes Prosecution to launch an investigation into the director of the state police, alleging that the police and prosecution have manipulated RDM Bego's evidence and testimony. Regarding the request, Valio says that the police will continue to do their job. Malindi is on the run after escaping from police on the day of their operation when he learned that the cocaine in his possession had been replaced with rice. An anonymous call to Greek police revealed that the 700 kilograms of cargo filled with cocaine and transported in banana containers from Ecuador, 137 kilograms was destined for Albania. Greek police said that the information was accurate after a search at the port of Piraeus. Meanwhile, in Tirana, the Serious Crimes Court of Appeals has left Durrës port employees charged with being involved in drug trafficking. And that's the news across the country today. Thank you so much for watching our English edition this evening, and be sure to join us again every Monday to Saturday at 6 p.m. for the latest news from Albania. Once again, on behalf of Ora News, thank you and have a good night.